The Rue des Deux Ponts cuts across the centre of the Ile Saint-Louis, from the Pont Marie straddling the Seine on the north side to the Pont de la Tournelle on the south. The island is no more than 200 metres across, and side by side with the Ile de la Cité stands at the very heart of old Paris. Enzo had wondered how his daughter could afford an apartment here, where 4 square metres of real estate could cost upwards of 300,000 euros. But Simon had told him that she was in a tiny 6th-floor studio up in the roof of her apartment block, and that the rental was being subsidised by her employer. The previous night, in the small hours, at home in Cahors, he had questioned the wisdom of trying to see her. He had to go to Paris anyway. The stupid wager. But in the end it was Sophie who had made his mind up. It had been a hot 70 degrees, humid and sticky. Somewhere across the jumble of medieval red-tiled roofs a clock had chimed 2, a deep, sonorous ring that pealed across the centuries. The old quartier of this ancient town in southwest France dated back to Roman days, and in some of his lonelier moments here Enzo felt only a breath away from the beginnings of human history. His armchair reclined by the open window, his guitar laid across his chest, he stared at the ceiling and brushed his steel slider along the length of the fretboard, strings softly weeping, evoking the blues of a not-so-distant past. By leaving for Paris the next day, he would miss the start of the annual Cahors Blues Festival. Floorboards creaked in the hall. "Papa?" He turned his head to see Sophie in her nightdress framed in the doorway, and had to blink away sudden tears, surprised sometimes by just how much he loved her. "You should be sleeping, Sophie." "Go to bed, Papa. It's late," she'd said softly. She always spoke English to him when they were alone. English with an oddly incongruous Scottish accent, like the sweet scent of whiskey drifting in the warm air of a summer's night. She'd padded across the salon and perched on the arm of his chair. He'd felt her warmth. "Come to Paris with me." "Why?" "To meet your sister." "I don't have a sister," she'd said. There was no rancour in it, just a cold statement of fact as she saw it. "She's my daughter, Sophie." "I hate her." "How can you hate her? You've never met her." "Because she hates you." "How could I ever like anyone who hates you?" She had lifted his guitar away then, and laid it against the sill, and slid down into the seat beside her father, laying her head on his chest. "I love you, Papa." He had found the apartment block quickly enough, number 19 bis on the west side of the street, next to the Marché des Îles fruit and vegetable store. He had no idea what the entry code was for getting into the courtyard. He could have rung for the concierge, but what would he have told her? That his daughter lived here, on the top floor? And if the concierge had taken him up, what would he have said if Kirsty had shut the door in his face? So he lunched in the L'Île aux Vaches bistro on the corner of the Rue Saint-Louis, sitting on his own in the window watching the faces drift past, sunlight slanting down between tall old buildings that leaned at sometimes curious angles. He sat until the restaurant was empty, his waiter hovering impatiently nearby, waiting for him to pay so that he could go home for the afternoon. Finally he settled up and walked across the street to the Louis IX bar and found himself a table in the doorway, and nursed a beer for nearly 2 hours. More faces passed. More time. The angle of the sun grew more acute as it slid down the sky into early evening, and still the tourists filed by, perspiring in the July heat, and private cars and taxis belched their fumes into the fibrillating air of a long Parisian summer's day. Then he saw her, and in spite of all the hours of anticipation, still felt as if he had been punched in the gut. It was 12 years since he had last laid eyes on her, a brittle, difficult 15-year-old who wouldn't speak to him. She was crossing the Rue des Deux Ponts from east to west, carrying groceries in pink plastic bags dangling from both hands. She was wearing denims that cut off inches above the ankle and sat low on her hips beneath a short, white, sleeveless top that bared her belly to the world. It was the fashion, although very few girls had the figure to carry it off. Kirsty was one of them. She was tall, like her father, with square shoulders and fine, long legs, and she wore her hair long, again like her father, but not tied in a ponytail like his. It was a rich chestnut brown like her mother's.